Today, I want to talk a little bit about income producing properties. So we'll start by reviewing some of the common ways people make money from their property. Then we'll talk about a larger integrated approach so that you can level up that amount of income. And then I'll talk about how I plan to turn my own property into an income producing property for an entire community of like-minded individuals. Self-sufficiency when it comes to your own food, electricity, and water on your own property is very important to coming at any problems from a position of strength. It's a lot harder to control people who have everything they need right in their own home. But you still need money. Property taxes, basically yearly rent on your own property. And of course, you always need money for other things, staying connected to the internet, supplementing any food and repairing things that need repairing, and buying new products. It's just to live in the modern world, you need a little bit of money. So a self-sufficient property is great, but an income-producing property is even better. If you work from home, and that is all the money you need to maintain the home, buy the food, buy the electricity, internet connections, and all that. In that sense, you would have an income-producing property. I know that sounds a little bit simplistic, like, duh, if you're working from home, you're obviously bringing your salary to that home. But just bear with me, I'm just setting the stage for how to think about an income-producing property, and this is a point that I'm going to get back to. By the way, if you're quite astute and noticed that my haircut's a little bit different or the background's not quite the same, you're correct. I'm recording this at a different date. I just had a little bit more I wanted to add after watching the initial video that I recorded. So, not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Buying a duplex and renting out half of it is a classic way to pay your mortgage and have a little bit of income. A farm is obviously an income-producing property. It's the base concern that everybody needs is food. There are a lot of people that have YouTube channels based on showing what they're doing around the farm, developing a farm. For a lot of these people, I think the YouTube videos and the money that they're able to make from that end up becoming a larger revenue stream than the farm or the animals themselves. And of course, you can expand in other ways after that. You can sell merchandise, you can sell premium subscriptions for extras. In a lot of states, if you have extra power coming off of your solar panels, the electrical company has to buy that back from you at a certain rate. Obviously, an extra room for rent or an in-law apartment for rent, you could do this on Airbnb and other platforms that allow you to do short-term rentals. Been very lucrative for a lot of people. And you can rent cars on Turo. Turo is one of these Airbnb style apps where anybody can put their extra car on there and rent it to strangers. All of these are ways to turn your property into income-producing property, leveling up from self-sufficiency. But you can also think bigger. For example, an Airbnb host, they can add things to their property that make it especially attractive and almost make it like a little hotel, resort, or eco-village that attracts people to the property for the property itself and not necessarily for what's going on in the area. You could provide airport pickup for a fee, and then you could rent your cars on Turo. You can add Airbnb experiences, so maybe archery, for example, soap making. There's a million things that could apply here. If you know the local area, some hiking trails, you can add that as an experience. You can bring in a yoga instructor and offer that if you have a large enough Airbnb and you're selling to multiple people. You'll see a lot of farms do this. They don't just sell veggies. They do pick your own apples, pick your own strawberries, whatever it may be. They do corn mazes, especially up in New England, where I'm from originally. Everybody loves a good corn maze. And then, of course, at the corn maze, they're selling concessions, food, drinks, beer, that sort of thing. There's a petting zoo, there's a restaurant. It's a destination. So these are pretty obvious ways to make money with your own property. The big picture is that we're transitioning from the industrial era into the age of information, and that transition will have a few bumps in the road. The age of information promises to have a decentralizing effect, where instead of needing large countries to garner large armies to protect or take an industrial base, much smaller jurisdictions are going to become optimal for government and governance because the bulk of wealth is more mobile than it used to be. So yes, while you still might need factories, It doesn't really matter where that particular factory is. That's not so much what the wealth is about. The wealth is about the technology and the people. Now, this decentralization could be great in a lot of ways in terms of having more choice which government you decide to organize yourself under. It could turn government into more of a product offering instead of being forced to pay taxes under one of these governments. But that also means that we're entering a period of disintegration when it comes to cohesiveness. That means more danger in a lot of ways. It means shipping is going to be more expensive and because it's harder to protect. The global economy is not going to be as connected and seamless. Things will probably get more expensive and things will need to be done more local. Obviously, that can be good in a lot of ways, but it can also present some dangers. So when you're thinking about this income producing property over the next couple decades, I think it could be helpful to think of this a little bit like your castle in the Dark Ages. So when you think about a manor home and the lord sitting at the center, that had a really useful purpose during the Dark Ages, mainly for protection and to provide the stability needed, and the lord was mainly the protection. So that's one way to think about this, but obviously without the forced labor and without the taxation. No, you're not forcing anybody into your system. You don't have serfs. You have a lot of people that rely on you and you rely on them. It's a lot like a business. You provide the benefits of employment, and as I've mentioned, I think that could include room and board. I think that's a really good way to make it less expensive to hire workers, but still provide a lot of value to those workers, so it's a win-win. And if you're planning to be this lord with this castle, you do need to think a little bit about protection. So in the modern context, you might think about some of the troubles that your employees are going to go through in this world where things are less connected, more expensive. So I think acting a little bit like a government and providing that safety net to employees and saying you don't have to worry about food and shelter and room and board, we're going to handle all that. All you have to do is focus on fulfilling your job in our little microcosm of society. And that's going to be, I think, a huge in-demand product as we move forward, things decentralize. We'll see likely less large-scale warfare as the decades progress, but crime on a smaller level is likely to take off without these large overbearing authorities. Again, there's going to be some good, some bad. So one thing that you could provide to people is bug out or prepper insurance. So if you have a really safe place to be, physically and from the perspective of still having water and food and shelter and electricity, that will certainly be a popular product, and you'll essentially be replacing not just local governments, but perhaps even larger governments. And that could be very lucrative and provide a very necessary service for uncertain times. And this is the work from home point that I said I was going to get back to. Private security is already growing and becoming more popular. People want to live in gated communities. They don't feel necessarily like the government services are keeping them safe. So this type of insurance works in a world where people can hop online from anywhere and bring their income to them. So in addition to just housing your workers on your own property, you can also have a long-term base of digital nomads and remote workers who are earning income from the property and bringing it in to spend on things like rent, food, other services, maybe even some of that education that you're providing for the workers. You're essentially just offering safety, infrastructure, and modern amenities which may be harder to come by as the years progress. You start by making the property self-sufficient, which is great for you and helps you afford to hire more workers. And in the beginning, this can also help you transition to a income-producing property because it can be a drive for tourism. But in the long run, that self-sufficiency could be much more necessary to attract people to your property and to your products and services that you're offering because it solves a real problem that is likely to only increase in the currently fragmenting world. Okay, so that's the big picture. To bring even more income to your property, which means more than self-sufficiency, it means more safety, more protection, you have more options, you're able to build more, you're able to help more people, bring in more customers. Now I want to talk a little bit about my plan. The plan behind the Academy This is the first stage of the project. So what we're going to do is we're going to purchase property, and then we're going to set up a college alternative. We will give room and board and education in exchange for labor. So we'll get young people down here, we'll build the property, we'll build dwellings, we'll build the electricity infrastructure, the water infrastructure, and the food infrastructure. And that way we're starting from a self-sufficient property, and we're not charging those young students for the education that they're getting from the mentors we bring in to teach them how to build, how to do the electricity, and more high-tech technological things as well. We're not charging the students for that. They're giving labor in exchange for that. So already we're cutting a lot of money out of the process so that we can do it based on trade instead of having to have these huge overheads. As I already mentioned, a lot of people will make money on YouTube or other online video platforms making videos about their property. That's the first plan to make money with this property. And from day one, we're going to be filming this and we're going to be putting what we're doing online. And I think people are going to be really interested and expose more people to our way of thinking, to our business model, and to these ideas which can empower them in these decentralizing times coming up. Premium subscription for extra content is obviously a good way to start making money in this phase. The subscription, though, is not just going to be for online videos. It will also give people access to the community. I just want to be crystal clear here that I'm talking about the plan moving forward. Unfortunately, this property isn't set up yet, but you can help me do that, which I'll explain more about at the end of the video. Personally, I don't want to just put something on Airbnb and say, oh, whoever wants to can come down here. I want it to be more exclusive. I want to choose the type of people that I interact with based on shared values. So the subscription doesn't just get you premium video content, it also puts you in a category where you can rent vacation rentals on the property, for example. You can come down, interact with the people that you've seen from YouTube, that you know from YouTube. You can learn from the mentors. You can swim in the pool, pick your own vegetables, have meals with us, and interact with the other people that are down there in the community. So first you have the subscription, and then you have the actual vacation rentals and access to events. We're going to have events on campus. We're going to get the entire community together. We're going to eat together. We're going to bring speakers in there. We're going to learn together. We're going to network, interact, make friends. That's what I'm most excited for about this. But again, in order to have this be a reality, it needs to make money. Once we reach the village stage, there's also going to be other people moving into the community and paying rent on a regular basis. So people that are renting could pay extra to join the classes and learn from the mentors that the students are learning from. And remember, the students are paying with their labor. So this would be like remote workers, digital nomads, or people that already have enough money that want to come live here. Like I said at the beginning, it's going to be a lot of building, physical labor, but later, we're also going to expand into more technological, science-based, because the plan is also to incubate businesses. So to have high-tech equipment and really intelligent, world-class mentors and experts coming to campus, along with really intelligent, driven students, I think could create a lot of wealth in that way. And the plan is also to, of course, invest in these businesses. That's the basic idea behind not just being self-sufficient, but being income producing, which does put you in more of a position of strength to weather uncertain events and just be a little bit more powerful in this coming age, which in a previous video I dubbed the new dark ages, because the world is going to be a lot less connected and there are going to be certain problems that we have to deal with. If you want to see what I've described here become a reality, follow the links below to my locals community where you can see some free content that'll explain a little bit more what this project is all about. And if you do want to chip in just $5 a month, you'll be helping move the project forward, but you will also gain access to exclusive content. And that includes some videos that go into much more depth about a few of the points I've hit on here. For example, in one of them, I do a deep dive on historical cycles, which all appear to be coming to an end right now, setting us up for a tumultuous decade of reorganization. So this video really sets the stage on how to set yourself up to not just endure that change, but thrive by understanding what's going to happen. There's another video where I actually use that historical example to go into what the next 20 to 30 years is likely to look like based on that. And I go much more in depth on the business plan to make my vision for this resilient, independent community a reality. But the great thing about locals is that you can also join the conversation. You can post comments, links, ideas, and share knowledge with the entire community, which is central to making something like this work. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I'm Joe Jarvis, and I hope to be interacting with you soon in the locals community.